Good morning. Hi, preschoolers. How is everybody today? I hope you guys are doing well. Today is Friday, I believe. I don't know if that's when you're watching this, but today is Friday when I'm doing it right now. And of course, on Friday, we have letters of the week. This week, we have 2 letters of the week, which is awesome, and we never really do that. But I figured since we didn't do it last week, because of the hibernation celebration, I thought, well, let's just put both of these last letters on for this week. So our 2 letters are this one, which is a Y, and that one, which is a Z. And I'm going to write them out for you. I'm going to draw them out for you so you kind of see how they go. But I think you guys probably know this pretty well already. Got my little paper. So a Y sounds like yeah, yeah, yeah. Usually. When it's at the beginning of the word, that's what it sounds like. Sometimes it does different sounds too, but at the beginning of the word, we're going to go with yeah, yeah, yeah. Can you practice that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So to draw a Y, we'll go down to the middle, down to the middle. Almost looks like a V right now, doesn't it? But then it has that big stem right there, and that's your uppercase Y. Your lowercase y goes down a little lower, and it's a little smaller. And it does that, and then one long one. And that's yeah, yeah, yeah. We're going to talk about what starts with the yeah first. I did get a couple things. Actually, I just got one thing. Well, I have a few words, but I only found one thing in the house that started with a Y. This stuff, what is that stuff? Yeah, yeah. Yarn, yarn, starts with a Y. And this is literally about all of the yarn that I have left in my house because you guys use my yarn so much, which is a really good thing. I'm glad you guys use it. But I have to tell you, before you come back to preschool, I'm going to have to buy more yarn because we're almost out. And you guys like to make kites with yarn and other things too. Yeah, yeah, yarn. Also, if I do this, what is that starts with a Y? That's a yawn, of course. And sometimes we go outside and we play in my back yard. Yard also starts with a Y. It's true. Oh, I have another one. I don't own one of these things though. So I don't even know if you know what this is. Maybe some of you do. Maybe some of your parents know how to use one or have one at home. If they do, I want to see a video. This starts with a Y. It's called a yo-yo. It's a little ball-shaped toy that has a string attached to it. And you can kind of throw the yo-yo down, and then it climbs back up the string, and you can throw it down, and it climbs back up the string. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those. Maybe Mom and Dad can show you a little YouTube video about yo-yos, because they can be pretty fun. I have to say, Rob used to have a yo-yo, and he used to be pretty good at yo-yos. But I don't know. He's old. He doesn't have time for hobbies anymore, so I don't think he could do a yo-yo now if he had one. I'm not really sure. But those are our Y words. The last letter of the alphabet is here. Right now. We are going to do it. So the last letter of the alphabet, of course, is Z. And a Z sounds like Z, Z, Z. It's a little bit different from the S, right? It sounds a little bit like an S, but it's a harder sound. You got to really get in there. Z, 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 right? Like the buzz of a bee, right? Z. So a Z goes across and then diagonal down and then across. And that's your uppercase Z. Your lowercase z is just the same. He's just like a little baby though. Across, diagonal down, and across. This is that letter that if you turn it that way, looks like an N, right? You turn it back and it's a Z. N and a Z. Letters are funny like that. So for the letter Z, I don't know what you thought of, but I know you know some. So go ahead and tell me right now. I'm listening. Very good. I found this thing. This was in Lily's room. That's her zebra, of course. And, well, I did find a little one, too. I thought I lost it for a minute. And I said, Lily, you'll have to find me a zebra. And then she said, oh, I have this one. So I have 2 zebras. And, oh, On my sweatshirt, I have a zipper, of course. And this zebra, if you see a zebra in our country anyways, it would be at the zoo, of course, right? That's the letter Z. I don't think there's a whole lot that starts with it, but goodness, I know I'm probably forgetting things. I didn't look these up before I did this, so I only have a few things. Maybe you and Mom and Dad and your brothers and sisters can help us come up with more Y and Z words, because you guys are pretty spectacular at this at home. But I have 2 books today. I'm doing something a little different. I have 2 books. I have 2 of Oliver's favorite books. I know you guys have a whole lot of books at your house that are probably some of your favorite books, but instead of picking preschool books today, I thought, oh, let's do something different. Oliver has been loving these 2 types of books. Does anyone recognize this one? This is Franklin. I love Franklin. He's a turtle. And this one is called Franklin is Messy. Are you ever messy? Are you still being a helper to Mom and Dad at home? Making sure your toys are cleaned up, cleaning up your plate after lunch and after dinner, making sure it goes in the kitchen. Don't be like Franklin. Don't be messy. Gotta be neat and clean, right? And then we also have Curious George's First Day of School. And that'll be a good one. I'll read this one first, actually. But these are Oliver's favorite books. He's been reading Curious George, and we read Franklin a lot, and we read the Little Critter books. If you guys have any of those at home, you know what I'm talking about. I really like those books, too. This is George. George was a good little monkey, and always very curious. Today George was so excited he could barely eat his breakfast. "You have a big day ahead of you, George," said his friend, the man with the yellow hat. It was a big day for George. It was the first day of school, and he had been invited to be a special helper. George and his friend walked together to the schoolyard. Some of the children were nervous, but George just couldn't wait for the fun to begin. I think it would be normal to be nervous on the first day of school. A little bit, and probably pretty excited too. In the classroom, George's friend introduced him to Mr. Apple. "Thank you for inviting George to school today," the man with the yellow hat said to the teacher. And then he waved goodbye. "Have a good day, George. I will be back to pick you up after school." Mr. Apple must be his teacher. The children were excited to have a monkey in class. "George is going to be our special helper," Mr. Apple told them. And what a helper he was! At story time, George held the book. At math time, the children could count on George. He has so many fingers and toes. And at recess, George made sure everyone had a ball and a well-balanced snack. After lunch, Mr. Apple got out paints and brushes. George saw red, yellow, and blue paint. And we all know those colors as the primary colors, right? Those colors can make all the other colors. 3 colors were not very many. George was curious. Could he help make more colors? Oh, yeah. First, George mixed the red and blue to make, I don't know if you can see it, purple. And then next, George mixed the red and yellow to make orange. And then George mixed the yellow and blue to make green. Finally, George mixed all of the colors together to make a very big mess. Ooh. The children thought the mess was funny, but Mr. Apple did not. "Oh dear," he said. "We are going to need something to clean this up. Everyone, please sit quietly while I look." George did not mean to make such a mess, and he certainly did not want to sit quietly. He wanted to help. It was his job, after all. George had an idea. In the hallway, George found a closet, and in the closet, he found a bucket. In the bucket, he found just what he needed. Do you have any guesses? It's a mop. George was on his way back to the classroom when he heard somebody yell, "Stop! Stop! What are you doing with my mop?" The janitor ran after George. "Stop! Stop! No running in the halls!" And the principal ran after the janitor. Oh my goodness. But George was going too fast to stop. He grabbed the doorway and he swung inside and splosh! The bucket tipped, the mop dropped, and George slid across the floor. Oh boy. Now the mess was even bigger. Mr. Apple looked surprised, the principal frowned, and the janitor just shook his head. And George, poor George. He felt terrible. Maybe he was not such a good helper after all. The children felt terrible too. They did not like to see George looking so sad. They thought he was a great helper, and now they wanted to help him. So the children all lent a hand, and some lent a foot. Look at them cleaning up. They're all helpers, just like us. We're all helpers here. We work together, and I hope you work together at home too. I'm sure you probably do. And before anyone knew it, the mess was gone. "That little monkey sure is helpful," the janitor said. "It looks like Mr. Apple has a whole class full of helpers," the principal added. And at the end of the day, when George's friend arrived to pick him up, Mr. Apple said, "Thank you for all of your help, George. We hope you will come again." The children cheered, and they hoped George would come again too. Well, yeah, I would love to have a monkey in the classroom. That'd be fantastic. George waved goodbye to his new friends. What a great day it had been. He couldn't wait to come back to school. The end. Bye, George. We'll read a little Franklin book. Franklin is messy. Boy, both of these books are about messes. I didn't really do that on purpose, but it makes for a good lesson, so we'll pretend like I did do that on purpose. Clean your rooms. Franklin could count forwards and backwards. He could zip zippers and button buttons. He could tie his shoes and count by twos. But Franklin was so messy that he could hardly ever find his things, even special things. One day, Franklin searched for his sword. It was special because he had made it himself from cardboard and wood and string. Franklin needed it to play knights in armor with his friends. He looked all over. He found a bag of marbles that he thought he had lost. He found a brown apple core. Yuck! He even found his favorite baseball hat. But he couldn't find his sword. "Have you seen my sword?" Franklin asked his mother. Franklin's mother looked around his room. She shook her head. "All I see is a big mess. Please tidy this room before you go out to play." Franklin muttered to himself, "Why all the fuss about a little mess?" He had more important things to worry about. He might miss playing knights. Franklin hurried. He opened his closet and he heaped a whole armful of books inside. He piled all of his blocks in the middle of his room, and he threw his hat in the corner, and he put the apple core in a drawer. Silly Franklin. I almost called him George. Silly Miss Katie. "All done," he said to himself. Still, he hadn't found his sword. Is he really all done cleaning? That is not how we clean our rooms. That's how Lily cleans her room, but that's not how you should clean your room. By the time Franklin reached Bear's house, his friends were already playing knights. Bear slashed the air with his sword. Beaver lunged at evil dragons. "Hurry, Franklin," shouted Bear. "We need you." "I can't," whispered Franklin. The game stopped. "Well, why not?" they asked. "I don't have my sword," said Franklin. Bear was disappointed. "But how can we play knights without swords?" he asked. Franklin looked around, and he found a stick on the ground. "I'll use this," he said. They fought dragons all afternoon. Tomorrow, said Franklin, I will have my own sword, and then we can save Lady Beaver from the fire-breathing dragon. We are courageous Sir Franklin and Sir Bear. Beaver slapped her tail down hard. I don't want to be saved. I want to be a brave knight, too. All right, said Franklin, you can be Sir Lady Beaver, and together we will save the king. You will need your special sword, said Bear. Of course, said Franklin. When Franklin got home, his father was annoyed. I found this in your drawer, he said, holding the apple core. That is not where it belongs. And I found this hat on the floor. That's not where it belongs either. Franklin threw the apple in the garbage and he hung up his hat. Why all the fuss about a little mess? You tell me, why all the fuss about a little mess? What's wrong with a little mess? Maybe that's why he can't find his sword. Just guessing. Goose came by looking for a puzzle that she had loaned to Franklin. Can I please have my puzzle back? She said. Franklin looked. His room was such a mess that he couldn't see the puzzle among all the books and the crayons and the blocks. Well, maybe it's in my closet, said Franklin. Franklin opened his closet door, and it was messy in there, too. He stepped inside. Crunch! It was a very loud noise. Franklin's parents came rushing in. Are you all right? They asked. Well, I'm all right, said Franklin, but my sword isn't. He held up the shattered pieces. What a mess, Franklin said sadly. Maybe you need more places to put your things, said Franklin's mother. They found boxes in the basement. They painted them and they named them. Toy box, costume box, block box, and puzzle box. They put books on the bookshelf and they put a special hook on the back of the door for a new sword. The tidying up took a long time, but it wasn't so bad because Franklin found lots of things that he thought he had lost. He found Goose's puzzle and his own favorite purple crayon, and enough cardboard, wood, and string to make a new sword, and even a shield. The next morning, Franklin dressed in full armor. He was especially proud of his new shield. It said, Sir Franklin, loyal and brave. Sir Franklin, said his mother, I think you forgot something. Franklin's mother whispered in his ear, and Franklin smiled. They took a crayon, and they added 2 more words to his shield. See, it says, Sir Franklin, loyal and brave. Now it says, Sir Franklin, loyal and brave and neat. Goodbye, Franklin. Nice book. So maybe the lesson of today is, think about words that start with Y and a Z, and clean your bedrooms. Is your bedroom a mess? Or your playroom? Maybe your playroom has some toys on the floor that you could pick up. That would be nice, and that would help out you to find your toys so that you know where your things are, and to find your books when you're wanting a certain book at bedtime to read. It'd be nice if it was put on the bookshelf where it belongs, and it would help your mom and dad so they're not tripping over your toys. It's not fun to trip over your toys. All right, folks. It's been a long time. 20 minutes. Long video today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked some of Oliver's stories. I know you guys have some of your favorite books at home too, and I hope you're getting a chance to read those. And I love you guys, and I miss you so much every day. I wake up and I think, oh, maybe it's a preschool day, and then it's not a preschool day. And I cry, and I cry, and I cry. No, I don't do that. I don't cry. I do miss you a whole lot, though. So much. More than I've ever missed you guys, because it's been a long time. But, send me a text, send me a picture, give me a phone call, because I like to hear from you guys. I love you. Mwah. Bye.